what's going on, guys? Nick White, Joe Zitzelberger, The Dog Show with Nick and Joe, episode 1.
How's it going, guys?
What's going on? What's going on?
Alrighty, so this is episode 1.
The big number 1.
We're gonna, I guess, learn as we go with this podcast stuff, yeah?
Yeah, we're gonna get this all, this podcast stuff worked out for you, and we're gonna learn as we go, guys.
So, we don't really see each other a whole lot anymore. We've both been pretty busy here the last few months, yeah?
Very busy.
So,
yeah, I mean, he lives like, I don't know, 30, 40 minutes away, but I'm traveling nonstop and always on the road, and yeah, so maybe once a month at this point.
So what's going on with you?
Staying busy, man. Just had Christmas. Glad that's over with. I'm one of those guys. I'm not necessarily against Christmas or anti-Christmas. I'm just not a holiday spirit kind of guy. Are you? Are you a big holiday spirit guy?
I get into it because of the kids and all that. I would be lying if I said I wasn't ready for it to be over. I took a couple of weeks off from training dogs to kind of spend at home with the family, and I brought my nephew and niece up from North Carolina, so that was nice. And but I'll be honest, I'm ready to get back to training some dogs.
Yeah, I'm one of those guys that I'm more excited for Christmas to be over than for it to arrive.
Yeah,
so.
I feel the same way.
But yeah, I've been busy, man. Got awesome tracking property for us now.
Yeah, I saw.
I just closed on a 193-acre property here in Fauquier County, which is where I currently live. So we're going to put out some amazing tracking dogs is going to come out of that place, I'll tell you that much.
Maybe some agility courses in the future.
We can do 10 Olympic-sized swimming pools and 30 agility courses if we need to.
You know, that's something we don't offer, is agility. That's something that maybe we should look into. I know we get a lot of inquiries about their dogs wanting to do agility, and you know, it'd be nice to have somewhere to bring my personal dogs to, you know, jump over, I don't know, boards and
hurdles and A-frames and all that fun stuff. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because actually a lot of people ask, like, oh, what services do you guys offer? And I literally, my saying back to them is I say, we do everything except agility. And they're like, well, what do you mean everything? I'm like, we do everything in the world of dog training except agility. We do detection, we do protection, we do diabetic alert dogs, we do therapy dogs, we do tracking dogs, we do obedience, we do behavior modification. So, I mean, we literally do almost every major discipline in dog sports with the exception of agility.
And do you think a lot of that is just due to, you know, we haven't had the land for it, or?
No, I mean, there's really no reason. I've just never, I've never had a trainer, because as you know, we have trainers off-leash canine wide with amazing backgrounds in the world of dog training. I mean, we have Jacob Robinson, who's former MARSOC canine. I mean, we have, you know, Willie, who was doing detection dogs with Marines in Iraq, and you know, former police department canines, and literally the list goes on and on. And we've had some of the best detection guys. Again, Jacob Robinson, he was at Von Lick Kennels as one of their guys out there, and they put out the best detection dogs in the world. We have Luther McDonald, who is the Special Forces tracking instructor at Von Lick Kennels. So we have an amazing, we have over 315 trainers at this point, and we have a huge variety, but out of all those, we've never had a guy or a girl that was like, agility is my mastery. You know, we've had the detection guy, the tracking, protection. I'm the guy for the obedience, but so I think it's just out of the nature of how it's worked out. We've never really had anyone that pushed it.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Maybe we should see what our fans think, see what our clients think.
Yeah, and I'm sure I'll take some flack from this, but I just I feel like I'm trying to think how to say it. Like, I feel like it's a very female-dominated sport. Not female.
Jesus.
No, not female competitive sport where it's only females that do agility. I'm not saying that because I know better, but I just feel like it's a very female kind of. I don't know, man. I feel like it's a lot of females and instructors that do it, and we just haven't came upon any of them that has came onto off-leash canine. You know, we have all the alpha male tough guy stuff, you know, the tracking, detection, bomb dogs, drug dogs. You know, we have all of, you know, French ring, and we have all those people covered in off-leash canine. We just don't have anyone in off-leash canine that has came to us with the experience and said, hey, I'm a huge agility guy and I would love to bring this to your business model.
Well, I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, there's obviously a lot of the different aspects of dog training that I know and understand, and that's one of them that I really don't have any experience with. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, and this is completely ignorant of me, admittingly, you know, agility is, you know, jumping over things and going through things and, you know, all that stuff. And, you know, maybe I'll do some digging into it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just never been my thing. And again, I think that's the reason is we've never had anyone come into off-leash canine and say, this is my thing. I'm an amazing competitor at this sport. I'm an amazing instructor of this sport. And I think I could, you know, help you guys offer this throughout the company. So I think that's the only reason why. Don't get me wrong, I think agility's amazing. I've never done it. I mean, every protection dog is an agility dog, essentially. So every protection dog is an agility dog. If you think about protection dogs and their training, you know, we have Cody Talon and Jacob Robinson, all these awesome guys in our company and Joey Morris at Alpha Training Center. What are they doing with their protection dogs? They're doing A-frame walls. Yeah, they're jumping over fences. They're jumping in car windows. So, you know, every protection dog essentially is a low-level agility dog.
Kind of a cool story about that. So, as you know, I just got a new pup, Diesel D2, from Joey Morris over at Alpha Training Center.
Yeah, great dog.
Yeah, he's, man, dude's a savage, bro.
He is.
He's extremely social and, you know, gets along with the kids and the other dogs. And anyhow, so I was over at one of my trainers, I call it a compound. He's got a lot of land out in, where is it? Corrette, Virginia is where he's at, Sean's house. And he's building a little agility park just to run his dog, just for fun and stuff. And so we went out there to go do some bite work with the dogs. And he had a 6-foot wall that he built up, where you can, you know, remove the planks and make it 5 foot and so on and so forth. The wooden right.
walls.
Well, when I got Diesel, assuming it was because he was new to me or whatever, I had issues getting him jumping in the truck and like literally, and I'm like, man, you're a mal. I know you can jump. Maybe you just don't realize you can jump. And you know, Joey Morris trained him initially, you know, did all the hard work or whatever. So, you know, he even told me, he was like, no, this guy can jump, man. So we're over there, and I have him, we're just kind of hanging out, and we're standing like literally right in front of this wall that Sean built, and Diesel's just in a down in front of it. And man, I don't know if I said something or if I made a movement or whatever, but I shit you not, this dog leaped like he just grew wings all of a sudden and just flew over this 6-foot wall. And I was like, where the hell did that come from? So, you know, for me, it would be awesome to have an agility park just for my personal dogs. And I know if I would benefit from it, I know the clients would benefit from it too. So it's definitely something that I think we should look into. And at least, I mean, you guys tell us if you're interested in agility, reach out to us, info@offleashcaninetraining.com, and you know, let us know your thoughts. Let us know if you have any experience that you can share with us. You know, one thing I can say about Nick and I is we're always willing to learn new things from new people, and you know, see if we can use it to our benefit, and if we can, we use it, and if not, then we don't, you know?
Yeah, I feel like there's, in any dog sport or event, whether it's agility, tracking, detection, obedience, diabetic alert dog, I mean, the list goes on and on. What I've learned in doing all those is there's always something that you can take away from every sport. and apply it to other things. Like you've probably heard me talk, like when I'm talking to new trainers about detection or something, I'll say, well, it's kind of like an obedience where da-da-da, and then for protection, it's like, oh, well, it's kind of like in detection, so I feel like there's a lot of things that cross over into the other sectors and are beneficial to each other. And like I said earlier, I mean, every protection dog kind of is an agility dog with their training. So
yeah, for sure.
If you go out to my friend Bob Salamini's in Phoenix, he puts out some of the most amazing dogs there are, multi-French train national champion, list goes on and on. If you watched his Mals and Dutchies, you would think that he was running an agility course.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going over walls, they're doing 12, 13 foot jumps. I mean, so it's just a modified thing.
These dogs are, I mean, these sport dogs, these police canines, the military working dogs. I mean, these dogs, I mean, these guys have no fear. I mean, I feel like agility is naturally, a part of their genetics as far as, how high they can jump and how far, like, always get amazed when I watch D2 bite, because especially if it's a send away or send out, I mean, dude is jumping from what looks to be 15 to 20 feet away, and I have some pictures of him just,
Superman in it.
Dude, just completely flat in the air, and it's just like, a lot of these dogs are built for this kind of stuff. So, anyhow, definitely reach out, guys, if it's something that would interest you, and we'll look into it. So what do you have going on up?
I got a lot. I got a lot lined up, man. Let me see. So next 2 weeks, I go to Milan, Italy, to train a dog for a family there, a 7-month-old German Shepherd. Or sorry, not Milan, Naples, Italy. Sorry about that. I'm going to Naples, Italy, January 11th to train a dog for a family out there. So literally less than 2 weeks away.
I don't even think I knew about that one.
Yeah, well, I don't even know about them until usually the day before. So I got that going on, and then I'm there for like 9 or 10 days, and then I get back from there, and just literally yesterday, I was booked for training for 2 dogs in Austin, Texas, by a woman many people know. Her name's Mia Khalifa. If you don't know, I normally say Google them, but so yeah, I'm excited about that. She has 2 Morkies I'll be training down there in Austin, and that's February 5th through the 15th. And then February 27th, I go up to Jersey Shore to train Vinny. If you guys have seen the show Jersey Shore, Vinny.
Man, that was my. I gotta be honest. I've literally watched every single episode of every season. I was obsessed for a while. I don't watch TV much. But I totally watched every episode. I don't know, man.
I can honestly say, legitimately, I've never watched one episode of Jersey Shore ever. I'm not saying it's a bad show, or I don't watch that much TV to begin with, but I've never watched one episode.
It's addicting.
So I'm there the end of February up in Jersey Shore till March.
And who are you training up there?
Vinny from Jersey Shore. And then April, I go to Auckland, New Zealand, to train a dog for a family there. So yeah, I got a busy first quarter 2018 coming up.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah, what else? Joe, for those of you that don't know, Joe owns Off Leash Canine in Richmond, and just you guys, I would say most of you guys probably seen this on the news. Maybe 3 weeks ago, it was tragic. 3 weeks ago, probably, there was a...
It was a little bit longer, I think.
Okay,
maybe.
Yeah, probably, I would say it's 3 weeks ago.
Is it?
Yeah, I mean, check it out. But you guys probably saw in the news, there was a 22-year-old lady down in Richmond, right? She was in Richmond, right?
County.
Yeah, Goochland's pretty much same. She was in Richmond. Bethany Lynn Stevens, you guys may have seen on the news, very tragic, where she had 2 pit bulls. She took them for a walk. Well, the initial story was she took them for a walk, and she was gone for a long time, essentially. And then her dad got suspicious, started checking the woods, and long story short, cops show up, and the 2 pit bulls that she's had, I don't want to say their whole lives, because I'm not that confident on that, but these 2 pit bulls that she had were literally, I mean, it sounds graphic and it's a horrible tragedy, but they were literally, the cops said, like, eating her. Like, when they got there, they were eating, like, her rib cage.
It took a while for them to release that, and I think the reason why, it was a very controversial story when it came out, because, you know, the police didn't really release a whole lot of information. They just said, oh, by the way, this lady was mauled to death in the woods by her 2 pit mixes, and I think it's important that we include that they were mixed breeds, but that she was mauled by her 2 dogs, and that's pretty much the information that we got. And then, you know, a lot of people started questioning and like, wait a minute,
that doesn't make sense.
What is going on here? And they were like, oh no, we know for a fact that the dogs did it, but they didn't release.
There was a bunch of conspiracy theories. I think that's what forced the law enforcement to provide these more graphic details, because like you said, initially they just said, oh, this woman was mauled to death by her 2 dogs, and then there was all these conspiracy theories that came out. People was like, no way, her dogs wouldn't have done that, it was a cover-up, and then they released more information. I think they only did that because they their hand was forced by like kind of public outcry, saying you guys aren't doing your jobs, like you need to investigate this further.
You know, it's definitely an odd story, and you know, there's been several, I guess, facts from the police that have been coming in sporadically over the last few weeks, and you know, kind of now somewhat, I guess, putting the pieces to the puzzle together, you know, if that's what you want to say. But you know, when this story came out, obviously heartbreaking. Our thoughts, you know, definitely go to her family and her friends. But when it came out, it just didn't add up, man. You know what I mean? It just didn't add up. It's like
it never does.
So from my understanding, she had these 2 dogs from 8 weeks old, from puppies.
Is that official? I wasn't sure if she raised them or not.
I don't know. I mean, there's so many stories. It's hard to say. You know, I mean, I'm on CBS 6
and just to point out a random fact to clarify for everyone out there is there's no dog that's inherently more dangerous than any other. That's pretty much a proven factual statistic, that there's no dog that's more inherently aggressive towards people than any other breed.
So
and to add to that, you know, you always see pit bull when about 50% of those are actually don't turn out to be pit bulls
you just don't hear about them.
You know, people see a dog and says, oh, that's a pit bull, when a lot of times they're lab mixes.
Right.
But it's a literal statistic fact, I think, from the Veterinarian Medical Association journal, that 50% of them are misidentified when they actually go to take DNA from them, that they're not even pit bulls.
So people see the box head and they automatically assume certain size.
Yeah, it's kind of like people, you know, there was a commercial on, I think it was like Ancestry.com commercial. I don't want to give them too much of a shout out, but there was a commercial where they had all those people in the room, and there's like a white guy, and then they're like, and you would say, oh, that's a white guy, you know, he's an American. And then they're like, he was 37% Jewish, 8%, you know, African American, 9%, and then he was like 10% American or something. Yeah. And they have those all the time on like the Ancestry.com and DNA thing. So it's the same with dogs. Like, you can't look at someone and say, oh, you're American, and then a DNA test shows that you're actually like 20% American. So
well, and I think that's why it's important that we at least call them, you know, mixed breeds, because we don't in fact know. There's no DNA on these dogs as far as I'm aware. But so anyhow, so she gets these 2 pups at 8 weeks old. I read that one of her good friends was a trainer, and you know, she was previously into horse training. Anyhow, she gets these 2 dogs, hooks up with her training friend, maybe helps her at training, or becomes a trainer for a short period of time. And then several of the articles say, you know, she had a amazing relationship with these 2 dogs. They lived in the house with her. She took them on hikes every day, and you know, so on and so forth. And then I read a lot of articles that in the latter part of her life that she got into some drugs, and I guess things got rough. Again, this is all I don't know if this is 100% fact. This is just coming from some of the articles that I've read, but that's a pretty consistent one. And I guess so. She was going through a rough patch, and she brings the dogs to Dad's house and says, "You keep the dogs." And Dad says, "That's cool. They can stay here, but they're not my responsibility."
Yeah.
In fact, I just read an interview.
He pretty much left them.
He just put them out back in
a
pen.
kennel, out back of his house. So they were dogs that were used to being in a home, and now they're isolated by themselves in a random backyard in a crate or a kennel all of a sudden.
And he even said he wasn't going to feed them. And so she agreed that she would come over daily, take them out.
Well, what I read is she came 4 to 5 days a week.
Well, that's so. Once we get into our theories on this, that's kind of part of mine, is how often she came, blah 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 blah. We'll get into that. So anyhow, so she comes out to Dad's house, and whatever, lets the dogs out, feeds them. I'm not totally sure the exact of what she did when she got there. Goes, from the story says, goes hiking with them in the woods, normal spot where she would take them. And a day later, Dad said, "Where is she at?"
Was it that much later? Like the next day?
From my understanding, man, it was like 24 hours.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I'd have been like, "Hey, where is she?" after 2 hours.
I mean, that part definitely, when this story initially came out, was like, that's a little weird, but whatever. But anyhow, so then the police, or he called the police, and then he actually found her. And the initial reports were that the dogs were guarding her body.
Yeah, that was what they came out with initially.
And they couldn't get the dogs. So I think they actually shot them with a tranquilizer to get them.
Yeah, I don't remember how I know they got them without killing them though.
And I believe that next Saturday they did end up euthanizing the dogs.
Yeah, they did. Rightfully so.
I know a lot of friends, and I'm not sure family members, but I know a lot of her friends from some of the interviews I've read with them were highly against euthanizing the dogs until they got all the facts, which I get, right?
They want to make sure it's not like part of the conspiracy.
And so this story obviously started off in Goochland, and I mean, I saw it on...
Oh, it's nationwide. Maybe worldwide, I think.
I saw it on CNN last week.
Yeah, it's maybe worldwide.
So a lot of what's happening is a lot of animal advocates and groups were coming out and saying, don't put those dogs down, essentially, until you guys figure out, what the hell happened. You can't just say that the dogs did it and, see you later. You got to actually come up with facts. So that's when they actually released that the dogs were
eating. Yeah, eating her ribs and literally eating her. When that story first came out, before we knew this stuff, when it first came out, obviously anytime dog stuff comes out, I get probably hundreds of texts from all kinds of people. They're like, "What do you think about this? What do you think about this?" From my perspective, and I can only speak on my opinion, which is everything that we both do. I mean, it's our personal opinions on this. But from my expert opinion, I would even say, is I personally have never, ever, ever seen or worked with a dog that just snapped, ever. I've never saw a dog that I thought was extremely social, highly confident, extremely well trained, good demeanor, good temperament, and all of a sudden it just snapped and became a savage. I've literally never seen that, or even really heard of that, in my entire training career around dogs. Have you? Have you ever seen a dog that was like a therapy dog that you would be like, "This is the best dog ever," and then it just tried to rip out your throat all of a sudden?
No, absolutely not. But I mean, it does go along with what you always say and what I always say and what we tell the trainers and stuff is, no dog is aggressive until it is.
But that's true. As I always say, no dog's ever bit anyone until it's bit anyone. No dog's ever attacked another dog until it's attacked another dog. But even then, what I'm saying is, even then, I wouldn't be surprised by it. Like, I've never even seen that's surprised me. Because generally there's traits leading up to it. It's like, oh, well, he can be a little sketchy around dogs, or he's a little dominant around dogs. Yeah. So it's not like, oh, he loves dogs, never has an issue, super chill, super neutral, not submissive, not alpha, and he just snapped and now he's killed 3 people. So I've never, and I even would say the same with school shooters and people. People, if you look at school shooters, because I like to, talk about dogs and people a lot and together collectively, and even if you look at people, I've never seen a school shooter or someone like that, or a mass murderer that just snapped. One that was like super popular, super social, high confidence. Like, once they do it, every time there's a school shooting or anything, once it happens, you always see they dig into their background. Yeah. They're like, well, he was a loner, he was on antidepressants.
Played violent video games.
Played violent video games. He was on this web forum every week talking about all these different things. So it was never like, once you can see the whole picture, it was never like, oh, this kid was valedictorian, well-liked, super confident, super social, he loved everyone, and he just snapped. Like, I've never seen that.
So before we get into theories...
my theory is the dogs did it. Super simple theory.
Fair. I will make a disclosure. We actually have never talked about this with each other.
No. And that's what we plan to do with all these shows, because so you get the real Nick and Joe versions of our thoughts. So
before we even go any further into this, what you guys have to understand is, Nick and I are really, really good friends. We have been since we've, been essentially knowing each other. But we are, we argue a lot.
More than anyone, yeah.
So, and it's because he feels so strongly about his opinions sometimes, and I feel so, a lot of it sometimes is business or whatever. And so that's what you guys are going to get in this is, you're going to get, like, him and I are sitting around a table and just kind of shooting the shit with each other, and
whatever happens, happens.
And I would have to assume, maybe not this episode, maybe not the 7th, but I would have to assume at some point, things are going to get heated between you and I. So anyhow, so
that's my theory.
So the dogs did it.
Yeah, that's my theory.
Is that it?
Yep, I think it's that simple. So pretty much, and I'll back it for a couple minutes, and then I'll let you have yours. So ongoing socialization is extremely important in dogs. I did a video like 3 years ago. It's on our YouTube channel. I did a 5-part series on confidence building in dogs, and one of those 5 parts was socialization with dogs, how to do it, why to do it, the importance of it. It was just a 20-minute video on that. And 5 years ago in this video, I said that what people forget is ongoing socialization is important. It's not one of those things that you can do it from 0 to 1 and be like, oh, he's good, now I'm just going to move him in a kennel in the back of a house for 6 months with no contact with people or dogs, and he should still be good. It doesn't work like that. And amazingly enough, and interestingly enough, it doesn't work like that with people either. You can see all kinds of news stories if you read on or Google it or do any research with guys and women, more guys, who are 30, 40, 20 years old, well socialized their whole life. They go to prison, they do something, and they get put in isolation, right? Yeah. And you can read stories about, people that spent like a week or 2 weeks or a month in the hole, the isolation, right, where they're cut off from all interaction with people, like everything. And you can read, like, they literally, like, it drives them crazy. There was a good social video. You guys can probably YouTube it. I would YouTube, like, no social contact for 5 days or something along those lines on YouTube. And a guy just locks himself in his house, no cell phone, no TV, no Wi-Fi, nothing, just in his house for 5 days. And he talks about, like, it's pretty tough. Yeah. And that's 5 days. And that's like a 30-year-old who's interacted and socialized every day of his life. So I think it has the same effect on dogs that it has on people. And I even would say it probably has a more profound effect on dogs than it does people. Because people, we have, like, free thought to the point, or dogs have free thought too, but we have free thought to the point where I can say, all right, I'm going to do this experiment for 5 days, and then I'm done. I'm going to pick up my phone, I'm going to call Joe, I'm going to go have a beer. So you can, kind of plan mentally for that. Like, all right, I'm here by myself it's only a week, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where a dog doesn't know if it's going to be a day, a week, 6 months, a year till his owner comes back. So I think it's isolation and lack of socialization has a more profound effect on dogs than it does people. And
to that level, though?
And, well, I was going to say, let me say, this isn't like, it may be, I don't know, but I'm not presenting that to you as a scientifically fact thing. That's just my opinion. Well, I don't know those dogs. See, the thing is we don't know how those dogs are treated, and they may have been treated great. So I don't want to blame anyone, but we don't know how they were treated. What we do know, when that story first broke, right, and all we knew was 2 dogs mauled the owner to death. I got a bunch of texts, and people's like, "So what do you think about this? What's from a trainer? What's your perspective?" And I'm like, "There's more to the story, because there always is. Anytime I've seen stories like that, there's always more to the story." And then they came out like 3 days later, where it's like, okay, they were isolated, they were thrown in a kennel. She was showing up 4 to 5 days a week to just feed the dogs and leave, and didn't have that much come. Like, now the story's starting to come out. And those are things that we know. We don't know how they were raised. We don't know how they're treated. Maybe it was great. I don't know. But I do know when that story first broke, I said there's more to this story. It's not this lady that's spends every day with the dogs and loves them, and they're amazing, well-tempered dogs, and all of a sudden they just snap. Because again, I've never seen that happen in the world of dog training ever. So you
think it was a build-up?
Yeah, I think it was. Just like with people, just like school shooters, it's a build-up. It's a process over time. The depression or isolation continues. The medication, they're getting picked on at school, and it's a process, a build-up process. And I think it's the same thing with dogs. And again, and as you guys know, I love controversy. Like, I love it. So I love being a savage on things. Like, I take pride in it. And I talk about, like, you never see these, maybe once or twice, I don't know, but you never see them, like, this dog was a certified therapy dog. He was in an extremely good home. They did tons of training with this dog. Yeah. They took this dog everywhere. You never see it when it happens. It's never I've never seen circumstances like that. It's like dogs are tied up in the backyard. They weren't socialized. They're abused. They were never interacted with other dogs or people. It's always the same stories, regardless of the breed.
Yeah, and a lot of theories are out there. I guess she had a death threat a couple of days before, and when this story first came out, I'm listening to that, reading about that, and reading about how she had a few reports said that she had gotten into some bad times, maybe with drugs. So I started thinking, especially when the story initially came out, because I was kind of like everybody else. I was like, wait a minute. Family and friends are saying she's had 2 dogs since 8 weeks old, and let's clarify, she didn't get both dogs at the same time.
Yeah.
She did get the second one just a little bit later.
And I think that one, if I remember right, was like she got it because it was like in an abusive home or something. I think
I'm not sure about that, but so you read that she had these dogs since they were puppies, essentially. There's pictures all over the internet with her and the
like
dogs.
Car rides.
I mean, they're smiling, they're happy, and so, and then all of a sudden they kill her. Like, it just struck me as extremely odd. So I started. Actually, I had one of my trainers came over one night and we were hanging out, Brandon, and we were kind of talking about this when it first released a few days after, and he asked me what my thoughts were on it, what my theory was on it. And
here, what's Joe's theory?
Well, at first I really didn't know, man. Like, I'm a fact person.
Yeah.
I like to have my facts. I don't like to say
shoot it off the cuff.
Exactly, because I'll be honest, I don't like to be wrong. So
it's reasonable.
Yeah. So I wanted to read everything and see everything. And then he came back and he said, Well, I'm about to solve the mystery.
Uh-oh. Especially Brandon. This is
Yeah,
interesting.
no. So I said, all right, let me hear it. And he told me his theory on this, and I said, shit, man, that's it.
I'm excited now.
Like,
this is the first time I've heard this theory. I'm interested.
I was like, that's 100% it. There's not a doubt in my mind. So, and it's
a theory
odd.
coming from Brandon and backed by you scares me.
Yeah. I mean, take that for what it's worth, right? But, you know, what's odd to me is that this has not been brought up.
All right. Well, maybe you're going to crack the case. Let's hear it. I'm ready.
We may be doing it. All
Let's
right.
hear it.
So, the 2 dogs that she got is confirmed that they came from the same litter.
Someone here commented she owned one dog since it was a puppy and
Right.
took its brother back in when he had been bounced around to 2 different homes and
Right.
abused.
Right.
So again, there's always more of the story. Starts off with a sketchy
But
dog.
they are litter mates.
Okay. Which is a bad idea, too.
And there is something out there called littermate syndrome.
Yeah.
And for those, I mean, I'm not going to dig deep into, we can go for hours talking about littermate syndrome.
It's a bad idea to get litter mates across the board.
Extremely bad idea.
So that's all we need to...
But it is actually a thing, you know? And so what happens is, just kind of breaking this down, is, you know, dogs are born, puppies are born in the same litter. If they go to the same household, what happens is that, just say it's 2, these 2 dogs, they form such an incredible primal, I think that's the key word here,
like a pack
bond,
yeah,
that it's easy for them to not get attached to the human.
They become independent.
They become too independent, right? So Brandon's theory, which is now my theory, I'm stealing credit for this one. Thanks, Brandon. Is, you know, she gets these 2 dogs, litter mates.
Yep.
She was a very good and responsible pet owner for most of their lives.
Keyword?
Most. Right? For most of their lives. And so she integrated herself into this pack, and they accepted her, and maybe she made herself the pack leader. I mean, not sure. It doesn't really matter. It's pretty irrelevant to this, but either way, she was in the pack, and she was accepted by those 2. So she hits hard times. She brings the dogs to Dad's house. Dad throws them in the back of the house in the pen, and now their whole lives have just changed 100%. They're used to being indoor dogs, being fed regularly, seeing mom regularly, going on hikes and walks and all that, to all of a sudden they're sleeping outside, they're living outside, they're only being fed
4 to 5 days a week
at max, right? And only once at that. And so what do? These 2 dogs, their instincts kick in, and this littermate syndrome is back into full effect. They have detached her as a pack member at this point. Right now, all she is to them is a source,
occasional food source,
a source of food, right? Occasional source of food. So what's the name of the guys that do the autopsy? Whatever.
The coroner?
I don't think that's the actual name.
Oh.
Anyhow, whatever. Whoever
Doctor.
Yeah, the doctors who did the autopsy, they did confirm that she was also on her menstrual cycle.
Yeah, I saw that.
So hear me out here. So she's detached from the pack, right? And she's feeding, 4 or 5 times a week, whatever. She gets these dogs, she takes them out for a hike. All of a sudden, these dogs turn into extremely primal, dominant style dogs because they have had to, essentially, right? They've had no choice but to kind of click back into this littermate syndrome and rely only on each other. And when I say rely only on each other with littermate syndrome, like, there's nobody else. Nothing else matters, right? That's I would totally suggest everyone listening to research littermate syndrome. And so my theory is that they walk out into the woods, and one of the dogs or both of them, they smell it. they smell and they sense that she is on her period. And one of the dogs, or both of the dogs, because they're so primal minded at this point, they try to mount her, which is not uncommon.
Yeah.
As you know, with very
normal dogs. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I feel like that they tried to mount her, and they the reports, they really emphasized that her hands were really, really bad.
Yeah, like defensive ones.
Exactly. So that's kind of the theory, is these dogs tried to mount her, and she tried to go into defense and protect herself, and at that point the switch is flipped. I mean, they're at their full, they're hungry, they're neglected, they're pissed, and they suffer from littermate syndrome. I mean, to me, case solved.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, were they raised together though?
From my understanding, when she got the second dog, it wasn't too long after she got her first dog.
So it wasn't like a year and a half?
No. I don't even... Man,
yeah,
I'm trying to think of how old these dogs were.
I think a couple years old, I'm not sure.
Either way, tragic as hell, right? It's whether, it was due to partial or full neglect, or, something kind of loose upstairs in the dogs,
And they feed off each other. Like, we had those boxers. Do you remember those two boxers?
That was years ago.
It was a long time ago. Moose and Squirrel. I still remember, and we've done tens of thousands of dogs since then. But they gave us video footage from the kennel they were at, and where they came in, and the kennel tech came in to clean, and they get worked up, like super worked up, excited, and then they're excited, untrained boxers who are litter mates. Just throw that out there. But they were litter mates, and they're getting excited. She's trying to clean, and they're like, jumping up on her. And literally, we saw this footage. I used to have it, and so she's the kennel tech workers like pushing them, pushing them off. So now they're coming harder, and then one of them like nips her in the arm or the leg, I forget which one now, and she's like, and kind of drops down, and the other one hits her, and then boom, boom, and then they just kept tagging her back and forth, and luckily she was in the small kennel room, and you see she pushes them and then shuts the door and gets out of there, and I think the owners who end up signing them up with us end up coming in that room when they got off work or came from work or whatever the situation was, and they kind of round them up, but it's kind of, so imagine if it was that situation, and they were small then. I think they were 7 months old, so I don't know, maybe 40.
Do you remember who
each.
trained those dogs? Was it?
Yeah, myself and another trainer.
Okay, so you were a part of it. Okay, yeah. So do you remember if? And I know that was years ago. But do you remember if they were difficult to train? Not change behavior, just teaching commands.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Because
no,
the reason why I asked that,
ago.
Because I remember when I first got started with off leash, I took in 4 Dobermans at the same time. I'll never do that again, by the way.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah,
4 Dobermans, and they were all litter mates.
Oh, it's so
and
horrible.
I can remember when I picked those dogs up at our old facility in Richmond. And she's telling them to down all 4 of them separately and together. She's telling all these dogs to do these commands, and they were doing it, right? So I was like, oh, cool.
Easy.
This is going to be pretty simple. They're Dobies. They're statistically very intelligent dogs, and everything should be pretty chill. So I got these 4 Doberman home, and started the training process, and man, I'm gonna tell you what,
they made it pretty tough on you, huh?
I couldn't get these dogs, none of them, whether they were together or separate or whatever, I couldn't get these dogs to sit to save my life for the first few days. And in my mind, I'm like, man, I know you know how to sit because your owner showed me this, showed me that you know how to do it, and you did it flawlessly every time, all four of you, together, separate, whatever. Why, obviously as a trainer, my initial thoughts are, they just don't, they're like, screw you.
Whatever.
Yeah. And ultimately, that is what it turned out to be. To where, we kind of had to earn each other's respect and trust and all that stuff.
They had to welcome you into the pack.
Welcome me into the pack. But you know what, man? Like, I go back and I look at that and I'm like, man, that they had littermate syndrome written all over them.
4 at a time. That's
because it's sometimes we get dogs to where it's it takes a little bit longer than average to kind of develop that bond and trust and get them to understand that you're a good guy and you just want them to learn and all this stuff and whatever. But this was like exceptionally long. Like it took longer than it ever has, and it just struck me as odd because it was 4 very intelligent dogs. But again, you read up on that littermate syndrome, that explains it. So that is my theory.
If they were raised together, primarily.
Correct. Which they were, because I don't remember the whole story, but I know they had 7.
Yeah, but I think it's as cut and dry as it sounds. Dogs under-socialized, isolated, not being fed regularly. The one we know that she got back was in a pretty crappy situation. So, I mean, it kind of, what I feel is it created the perfect storm. You take all those, like any of those one factors are bad, like isolating your dog with no socialization for a couple months, and that's bad that can do some things in its own right.
Yeah.
And now you add, feeding them 4 to 5 times a week, that's bad in its own right. Then you add, new environment, the dog was in an abusive situation, that's bad in its own right. And then we don't even know the breeding of the dogs, the genetic. Maybe they have I actually recently read this thing on dog genetics, and they said that 40% of a dog's social ability, its ability to be like social, 40% of that, I think it was 36% actually, 36% of that is gene based. So, and then 50%, which is huge.
You have a lot of stats
I read a
in
lot.
that brain.
And then 50% of a dog's temperament, whatever the dog has as a temperament, 50% of that is genetic based.
Yeah.
So if you and which is huge, 50%, some people think like, oh, that doesn't sound that high. But like in the gene world, in the genetic, like scientific genome world, it's insanely huge. Pretty much saying like, oh, Nick and Joe are just alike. No, what you're saying is Nick is literally 50% of Joe. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
So then when you factor in, we don't know their breeding history. So if we know that temperament is 36%, we know that our temperament's 50%, social ability is 36%, then maybe also they had horrible genetics. Maybe their parents of the dogs were aggressive, which is I've seen a lot, a huge genetic trait. Maybe they were aggressive. So now they have the genetic predisposition for aggression, and they were isolated for months on end, and they were only being fed 4 or 5 days a week, and they had littermate syndrome, and their situation changed where they used to be. So that's what I mean. Like, this is a textbook case of what I'm talking about. I've never seen a dog just snap. It's always been, when you really look at the story, you're like, well, here's 30 factors, and any one of them are bad, and this situation has all of them.
And I think it's fair to say, guys, we didn't want this to be the case, right? We didn't want it to be the dogs. Obviously, we love dogs. We don't want to see them, euthanized. But one thing that I can say for both of us confidently is we're realists, right? We're both very realistic people.
Very.
And as much as I love dogs, at the end of the day, we still have to remember, guys, that they we take them in like family, we love them like family, but they are dogs. We have to remember that they're not as reliable as your 6-year-old son in kindergarten right now when it comes to consistent behaviors and stuff. So with all that being said, I think that they did the right thing by, and I know it's controversial for me to even say this.
I don't even say
dog
controversial.
trainer.
I say 100% those dogs should have been put down.
Yeah,
No
I mean,
question about it.
but you got to understand. I mean, people
No question.
People are going to talk shit.
That's
right?
fine, but
we're trainers.
wrong.
We're trainers.
They're
No,
wrong.
I agree.
If someone disagrees that those dogs should not have been put down, you're wrong.
No, and obviously I 100% agree with you. I mean, there's definitely some cases where those dogs are a threat to anyone's safety. I'm sorry, but when I hear a story about a dog eating out of somebody's rib cage that they opened up, that dog
should be put down, unarguably.
Immediately, right?
No question.
I mean, what else do you do with it? You know,
you can't do anything.
Secluded in a rescue by themselves for the rest of their lives?
It would be extremely, even extremely is an underrated word. It would be extremely reckless to ever rehome a dog like that.
Yeah.
Not even, and that's why I said, that's not even putting the emphasis on it. But yeah, there's no choice but to put a dog down at that point. None.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that. Now, so kind of the last thing on this, the big thing now in this story is that they're waiting for the toxicology report to come in, which takes about 90 days. And there's a lot of people saying that this is going to solve the mystery. And man,
it's going to come out that someone actually murdered her and used the dogs as a cover-up. I actually saw that she was getting those death threats and someone did it and they just used the dogs.
I mean, it would make
likely. And then people was like, it was a bear. And
oh Jesus!
No, seriously, I read all of these conspiracy. It's like the flat Earth theory people. I read, now I just offended a quarter of the U.S. population, but it's like the flat Earth theory people. There's a ton of conspiracy. Someone's like, no, it was a larger animal that did it, and the dogs were trying to defend her. These were the initial ones, and that's why the cops were forced to come out with more evidence. And then there was she was getting death threats. Someone murdered her and just staged it so it looked like the dogs did it, and so there was all these things that came out, and that's what forced law enforcement's hand to come out with more compelling evidence saying no, she had dog bite marks all over her body, to the point where it was someone was unrecognizable, so it was no question that it was a dog.
Yeah, and again, it's tragic, it's sad,
it's horrible.
But it's
horrible
something,
in every element.
It's something that hopefully everybody can learn, something from, whatever that is. My advice would be don't get dogs from the same litter.
That would be the first step. And then when you do get dogs,
don't be a shitbag.
Yeah, get them proper training,
treat them right,
socialization,
treat them right. Don't be a dick, right?
Just be a good owner.
Be a
That's
good owner,
the key, yeah.
Right? I don't know, man. It's just. It's one of those things where you just wish it didn't happen. You know what I mean? I can't imagine what her family's going through, and man, again, thoughts and prayers for them and her friends. But I kind of feel like they need to put some closure on this case, and I don't know if that toxicology. Because even if she was doing 18 lines of blow every single day.
Well, that's irrelevant.
What does that matter?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
So she was stoned walking them through the woods. Who cares? You know what I mean? It still happened. She was
vulnerable.
Right. It still happened. That's not going to prove anything. So, the best thing for this family right now is closure, and I know we're not really helping that at the moment by talking about it, but this is it for us. I was waiting to have this conversation with you, and then I'm done with it. I have my theory. Unless something crazy comes out, as far as I'm concerned, the dogs did it, and they made the right call putting the dogs down.
Definitely.
Right?
And a perfect storm was created based off all the circumstances with the isolation, the litter mates, the not being fed, the change of scenery. Probably the genetics isn't going to help. I could be wrong in this, but I highly doubt if they find the parents of those dogs. I highly doubt one of them is, a world-renowned therapy dog, and the other one's a highly trained service dog. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would probably bet a lot of money on that fact.
Yeah, for sure. So, anyhow, we'd be curious on what your guys' theories and thoughts are. If you're streaming us live on Facebook, I'm assuming that's still working. If you're streaming us live on Facebook, leave a comment and or
Yeah, I want to hear some of the crazy theories.
Or come, if you're watching this. By the way, this will hopefully be released on our podcast shows. Will be released
hopefully Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah, from my understanding, it's about 3 to 7 days, and then I'm also gonna, we're gonna get it on Spotify and whatever. So if you're listening to this off of iTunes, then email us your theory.
Yeah.
info@offleashk9training.com. And let us know. I'd be curious, But again, as far as I'm concerned, there's not going to be a whole lot that is going to say the police would have to drop some insane,
just crazy
that says these dogs didn't do it,
Yeah.
and we screwed up, and we shouldn't have.
And that's why I said when you asked, you're like, "What's your theory?" I'm like, "The dogs did it."
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Because again, a lot of people were like, the cops are covering this up. Blah,
No,
blah, blah.
it's
And guys,
absurd.
the thing is are there shitty cops out there? Sure, of course.
It was the guy with the glass bullet on the grassy knoll that killed JFK.
But this is the sheriff of the county and his entire department that stood by this. So.
There's no conspiracy.
No conspiracy.
None. As there normally never is on any topic.
Which kind of brings me to the next thing I want to discuss with you and kind of get your thoughts on, just because I'm curious what your thoughts on, because this it's no secret to my clients that this drives me crazy. There's, and I forgot what the term is. It's something. I'll look at it.
Anthropomorphic?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, putting human emotions into your animals.
Yeah, so essentially to where, people get so attached to not just this story in the dog's behalf, but also their own dogs at home, to where they're literally treating their dogs like they were human beings. They're sleeping on the bed, they're, in a lot of cases, they're eating what they're eating for dinner. They're talking to the dogs in a way that you and I would have a conversation, when that's just...
Yeah, essentially you're implementing human emotions onto domesticated animals.
So my question to you, 'cause for me, stop. Like, that's my thing on it. Like, don't do that. Like, I could go on for hours talking about why, and actually give you some proof of why that's not the smartest thing in the world to do. But what are your thoughts on that? Like, is that something that you think about often with clients, or?
It comes up often, yeah, because usually, people will say, like, in the crate, they're like, well, I want to put a Tempur-Pedic Simmons Beauty bed in the crate, so that way he's comfortable. And I'm like, literally, I'll say, why would you want that in the crate? And they're like, well, yeah, I wouldn't want to sleep on the plastic bottom. I'm like, oh, so you automatically assume that your dog wouldn't either, right? And they're like, well, yeah, like, just things like that, like, very anthropomorphic style of thinking. And but yeah, I do have that conversation a lot about things, and yeah, you just, I always say life's about balance. It's about balance with your dog, it's about balance with your friendships, your relationships, work, everything, even though I'm not so good at the work balance stuff, but it's all about balance. So, I'm fine with some of that stuff, as long as the other things are in place. That's the key that you should take away, is it's fine letting your dog on furniture, as long as other things are in place. Like, he gets off when I tell him to get off. He only comes up when I invite him. He's also super well trained in door manners and food manners, and when we walk, he like boom, boom. So as long as the other things are in place, it's fine. And I think it's that way with kids. It's that way with dogs. It's that way with friends. It's that way with work. It's that way with everything. It's just about balance. You can't just treat them like people, or you're gonna end up getting eaten. Or bit. And you can't just isolate them for months on end and abuse them.
Well, and even if you don't get bit, you're still going to create some behaviors that are going to drive you nuts. If you allow your dog to essentially do whatever it wants, because you let your kids do whatever they want, in the house, then technical difficulty there. Then nothing good is going to come out of that. You know, if you say they get on the couch and you have guests coming over, right? And you want your dog to get off the couch so your guest can sit down.
Yeah.
But the dog's like, no, this is my couch. I'm not doing it. You know what I mean? So in some cases, man, it's worse than others, obviously. But I think for the most part, you know, we just have to remember that they're dogs. And to be honest with you, I feel like I know they are. I know they're happier.
Yeah, they're pack animals. They need structure. They need leadership. They need discipline. They just all the things that happen naturally in a natural habitat.
Right.
There's leaders. There's rules. You know, like the most alpha male wolf is eating before the lower members. He's walking in front of the pack. You know, as I always say, you never see that. You know, when you talk about like pack leadership and stuff, is you never see like geese or ducks. Like ducks lined up and like the mom is in the back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's natural rules and guidelines and structure, and all you're doing as a human is trying to replicate those things. I go first. I go out the door before you. On walks, you don't pull me. You stay beside of me or behind me. Like, you don't eat until I release you. Like, it's all the kind of same things that would happen in their natural environment. You're just replicating that.
And the truth is, we owe that to them, right? We're the ones who domesticated them,
yeah,
right? We're the ones who took them out.
Realistic.
Exactly. That's kind of what I tell my clients is, you know, you gotta understand that. I understand that you love your dog like he's your son or your daughter or whatever, but he can't be treated the same, you know? And I'm not saying, I mean, don't take that the wrong way by any means. What I'm saying is like, you just can't let them do everything that you're going to let your kids do. And you can't, you know, when they get scared, you know, you can't just, oh, honey, it's okay, don't worry about it, and start petting them, because I mean, you're feeding that, you know. They don't
force the negative behavior.
Right. They don't speak our language, so all they understand is, oh, this feels good. I'm shaking. I'm gonna keep shaking. So
I'm getting rewarded for showing nervousness.
Right. So you know, it's definitely a subject I'd like to hit on.
Maybe we'll leave that on another topic, another day.
I'm pretty passionate about that one, if you can't tell. Yeah.
So we had a couple theories that rolled in on Facebook. Let me pull those up really fast. They were respectable theories too. They weren't like crazy, like flat Earth theories. One says, I think the dog started fighting and she tried to break it up and they turned on her.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
I think it's possible. I definitely don't think that... Yeah, I mean that's hell. I even think it's possible that is she saying that the dogs were fighting each other?
Yeah, they started fighting each other, and then they tried to break it up, and because don't they redirect? Like I have a blog called "I Got Bit While Breaking Up a Dog Fight," so it's a common thing that happens when you try to break up a dog fight. Redirects, turns on you, and maybe it kind of escalated like. The moose and squirrel one redirected on her, got a good reaction. Next one came in.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good theory.
Is that odd? Go ahead.
Another one came in and said, "I thought maybe she fell, hit her head, knocked herself out. She was bleeding, and the dogs were hungry, and the rest is what happened." So she fell, knocks unconscious, blood or something from her head. Dog's like, I'm hungry, haven't been fed for a couple days.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I think that's a bit of a reach,
and I think obviously we'll never know what actually happened, like ever, no matter what the autopsy. I mean, they're not going to say this is exactly what happened.
Yeah, no, of course. It's always going to be a theory.
No one will ever know, unfortunately.
Yeah. Hopefully, at least, at minimum, I could hope for that her family at least gets peace in this in some shape or form to where, and I know, a lot of times with death, closure is a big thing, and hopefully they can find that with whatever they believe what happened.
And it's always unfortunate, when they say pit bulls, because then you have I feel like you have kind of three sets of people, like me, like neutral, and then the people that's like completely anti-pit bull, and then the people that's like no matter what pro-pit bull. Where I just look at it for what it is. You know, pit bulls. I know like 87% of the pit bulls in the U.S. they rank I think third highest on passing temperament testing. So they're one of the most well-tempered, balanced dogs.
I love training pit bulls.
I do too. I've said before numerous times on my Facebook Live videos, people's like, what's your favorite breed to train? I'm like, well, I have a Malinois, but if I had to pick one breed, I'd probably say a pit bull.
Oh, they're so loyal, man.
And keep in mind, there's like, I don't know, like 30 bites a year or something. Yeah. Literally, I think like 30, 34. And there's like 17 million pit bulls in the U.S.
Yeah, so, but that's,
so it's like,
that's 34 fatalities.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's like, so that's like saying, and keep in mind, that's what they're classifying as pit bulls as well.
Sure.
Like, just like this, like there's no DNA being done to confirm that, yes, this dog's 100% pit bull. So this is what they're classifying, and as we know, 50% are misclassified. So, so it's like a statistic I read a while back. It's like, based off the number of pit bulls in the U.S., the number of like bites in the U.S. to pit bulls, it statistically means literally it was like that they're 99.99995% safe. So it was you were literally 100 times more likely to die choking on a hot dog.
Yeah, and I can see how this story is going to make people gun shy about going to the shelters and rescuing pit bulls.
Well, they're one of the most, I think pit bulls make up 20% of the dogs in the U.S. as a statistic. Yeah. So of course, these are all things that people don't consider when they say, oh, pit bulls, they're mean, vicious animals. Is one of the things that people don't consider is, A, they make up 30%, I think it's 20% of the dogs in the entire U.S. So out of the U.S. population, pit bulls make up 20% of them. So based off statistics alone, rationally, you're going to have more pit bull bites because they make up a fifth of the U.S. population of dogs.
Right.
And I think I was reading this, and it was maybe a month ago, so it was like if you look rationally at the number of this breed versus the number of bites, pit bulls rank like 9th on that. So the number of that breed in the U.S. versus the number of bites in the U.S., pit bulls rank, it was like 8th or 9th in bites. So, you know, but there's so much, and again, that's dogs that are classified as pit bulls, even though we know it's 50% are misclassified. So there's just so many things that people don't consider when they think about, you know, evil pit bulls, and you know, their bite pressure is 1,600 pounds, which is all bullshit too.
And what I would say is, you know, if you own a pit bull, and you know, be an advocate for the breed, because right now, I mean, obviously they've had a bad rep for a while, but right now is when that breed needs you guys the most, you know, to say that not all dogs, you know, not all pit bulls are vicious, violent, crazy animals.
Yeah, statistically 99.999%.
But as you know, Nick, people don't give a shit about statistics.
Well, that's the key, and that's why like we kind of do these is for educational purposes, to help educate people, so people know that, like, you know, don't buy into the hype of stuff like that. You know, there was I forget who it was. Maybe it was Rob Lowe, I think, that actor. I think that's who it was. When all that like race tensions things were going on in the U.S., you know, in the last 6 months or something, and you know, everyone's on social media, and he tweeted, he said, if everyone would just get out and talk to their neighbors, they would realize that this really isn't that big of a problem. You know, it's like
crazy, right?
Yeah, it's like when you look at the news, it's like, oh, I see this all the time, you know, but then when you actually break it down for what it is, like rationally misidentification, the number of dogs, like da-da-da, you see it's an insanely low problem. I mean, you're literally more likely to get the lethal injection at a prison and be killed than you are to be killed by a pit bull.
Yeah.
Like throughout the U.S., you're more likely to get killed by lethal injection at a prison. So it's insanely rare. And again, these are dogs that someone has classified as pit bulls, not that have been DNA genetically tested for that. So I think that's important for everyone to know.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, be an advocate for your breed. You know, if you have a pit bull that has a good disposition, you know, look up therapy training. You know, let that dog be an advocate for that breed. You know, because they're getting a bad rep from what, you know, dog fighting rings.
Yeah, it's all asshole owners.
Yeah.
Anytime they get a bad rep, you can almost always relate it back to an asshole owner.
For sure.
Literally.
So,
like, I don't want to say that, but yeah.
So it's going to take the entire community. When I say community, I mean the world, right? To get this breed out of that label of vicious and whatever, to where we can get some of these dogs out of the shelters and get them into good homes, and instead of families going to look for the cute lab puppies, maybe they're looking for the cute pit bull puppies, that were born at a train station down the road 3 months ago. You know what I mean? So just using that as an example, but essentially we gotta come together as a dog community, and even though we both agree that those two dogs specifically should have been put down,
Yeah.
we're not labeling that breed at all.
No,
this has nothing to do with the breed of those
And
dogs.
if they did DNA testing, they probably wouldn't even be pit bulls.
Agreed.
Maybe like 10% or something.
Right. So that's kind of my big, outtake on this is, let's educate everyone, but at the same time, let's also protect what little bit of, decency that this breed is holding on to, and let's not turn them into the
Demonize them.
Yeah, it's just the shit that I've read online about pit bull since this
and
has
it's all
happened.
wrong. Yeah, I mean, no one actually. I mean,
And
most of the people that say it have no clue what they're talking about. Like most people on the internet.
Yeah, for sure. And I try, and I'll be honest, and I do very well at it for the most part. I try my hardest not to entertain this stuff when I see it online. When somebody puts off a ridiculous comment about the breed or the situation in general, there's been a couple of times, so I'm not going to lie, where I had to step in and go, hang on here. I know my wife Kelly has several times stepped in on a few comments. So anyhow, that's that. I'd say we just leave it at that. Let the theories come in, and if there's any really, really awesome ones that kind of make us wonder, then maybe we'll touch back on this subject a little bit later. But let's get off of that. I know this isn't too dog related, but big fight this weekend.
Yeah, super big fight. I'm really excited for any of you guys who are big UFC fans out there. Actually, a former private seminar client of mine, Cris Cyborg, is defending her title. Is it tomorrow, right? Yeah, it's tomorrow
Saturday,
against Holly Holmes. Holly Holmes was 15-time world champion kickboxer.
She's a beast.
And Cris Cyborg hasn't lost in, I think, 13 years now. Hasn't lost. Knocked out Gina Carano. That just destroyed everyone that steps foot. Literally destroys everyone that steps foot in with her. So I'm excited about that. And I did Chris's dog named Fedor, paying homage to Fedor Emelianenko, one of the biggest MMA legends ever to live.
Probably the greatest heavyweight of all time.
Yeah, and it's so funny watching Cris fight. Like, if you guys get bored, go to YouTube and type in Cris Cyborg dog, and you can probably see my before and after video. And she's literally like the most sweet, kind, soft-spoken person. Like, a genuine, like, just nice, super awesome person.
Yeah,
and you would never know it just seeing her get in there and just literally almost kill people.
It's so funny because I remember you telling me that when you were out there training her dog. And
She literally texted me this morning. I had a text from her, yeah.
Dude, she scares the shit out of me.
Yeah, she's
a
beast.
When you look at her in the cage, she looks violent, man.
Yeah.
Like, she looks like she could...
She never shows up to win by the judge's scorecard.
No, dude.
She shows up to get her paycheck in less than 5 minutes.
But, you can't count Holly out.
You can't.
She's the one who ended
Ronda Rousey. Yeah.
She ended her legacy, man. This is a girl who, she's kickboxing, right? Kickboxing champion, and she's got a ton of power, and so anyhow, I'm looking forward to that fight. Like,
yeah, it's tomorrow. You should actually come over for that.
Yeah, maybe. Are you paying for it?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
In that
case,
I'm only charging $15 per person for admission. But yeah, I'm really excited about that. Cris is a good friend of mine. Like I said, literally, show you, she texted me this morning, and I stay in touch with her, and literally the sweetest, most awesome person you could ever want to meet. Yeah. I loved working with her and her dog Fedor, which was awesome as well. But
she's a beast. There's no doubt about it. I'm excited to see how this one turns out. And then my Carolina Panthers made the playoffs last weekend. I know you don't give a shit about football, but
yeah, that's the thing. Is like I'm like the biggest. As anyone that knows me, like I'm like super alpha male. You know, like all the Marines, Secret Service, dogs. Drinking, fighting, jiu-jitsu, MMA, like all that, but I'm just never a big football guy. I just never
makes
got
you an
into
American.
it. And my brother is, my dad is, like everyone around me is, but I literally could not tell you the last time I watched a football game in its entirety, ever.
So you grew up in
maybe like a Super Bowl when I was like 13.
Dude, that's so
literally.
insane.
I didn't even watch the last year's. I literally don't know last time. And it's crazy because I've trained, D'Angelo Hall's dog, team captain of the Redskins.
Awesome. He's awesome.
We've trained, me and Tank worked with Chris Baker's dog, Swaggy. I mean, so I've done a lot of the players' dogs, and they're all, as you know, when you do like the Nats and the Caps, they're like, dude, anytime you want to come to a game, let us know. And I still talk to D Hall, great guy as well. He's like, yeah, when you want to come to a game, let me know. And I should, but I never have the desire to go.
When Nick trained D'Angelo Hall's dog, which those of you that don't know who that is,
D Hall, baby.
D Hall, he is he's an incredible defensive back for the. Is he still playing for the Redskins?
He does.
Okay, for the Redskins, been there for. This is probably got to be his 14th, 15th season. Well, maybe not.
It's been a while.
Anyhow, but super good football player. So he trained him, and then he did the turnover in the Fredericksburg facility. And when D Hall came and all that, I was there and I met him. And man, what a down to earth guy, huh?
Yeah, super good guy.
That guy,
amazing.
We sat there because you don't want to bring up their profession and seem like I'm a fan.
And just to add to the story, normally when I do my turnovers with celebrities, like Ryan Reynolds or D Hall or Cyborg or any of the people that you guys see me do, as Joe will tell you, I never let people come to those, almost never.
Yeah.
Just because I want to keep it like a
and I don't think I
experience.
planned on being there.
No, but I knew that you were super fanboy, so I told Joe, I'm like, hey, I was like, hey, if you want to be there, like, we'll do the turnover, and then you can show up really quick and say hi or something, because I know you're super fan about him.
Yeah, man, I was.
And he just stayed for like 2 hours.
And we talked football.
Yeah.
Like, that was the craziest thing.
He was excited to talk about it, too.
He said, I forgot how it went, but he said something about training camp, and I asked him a question based off of what he said, and next thing you know it, man, we're talking football for probably 30 minutes in the facility, and he was telling me, a little bit of the ins and outs of the behind the scenes, and man, just super cool, dude.
Really good guy.
He was eager to take pictures, and so anyhow, he was. I'd actually like to talk to you, not on this episode. I mean, this is probably a whole nother episode. Is on the clients that you train, you have a lot of
the coolest.
Yeah, let's not necessarily rate them. Let's hear about them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe we'll do an episode on that.
For the ones
that
talk
about it in a different episode. Yeah,
for the ones I haven't met. So.
But yeah, D Hall is a really good guy. But yeah, in summary, football doesn't do it for me. The only sport I watch whatsoever is UFC. I do go to because we've trained Max Scherzer's dogs, we've done Gio Gonzalez's dogs, we've done Aaron Barrett's dog. I mean, I've done Jason Worth's dogs. Between both of us, we've literally done half
the team
of the national starters. So I do go to an occasional game. I'm really good friends with Max Scherzer. I was just at his house for his birthday, or his third Cy Young Award last month. So I do go to an occasional game for that, and I enjoy it. I just ain't a guy that watches it on TV.
Yeah.
Like if I went to a game, which I probably will, I would enjoy it. I would have fun. I'd have some beer.
But you wouldn't.
I'd get an Uber, do all that stuff. But I would enjoy it. But I just wouldn't go back and like, I can't wait to watch it on TV next week.
Yeah. Well, I'm a football guy. as you know.
Yeah.
I love football. I love the Carolina Panthers, and I think this is their year. But anyhow,
I think you've said that for 5 years that I've known you, maybe 6 years now,
I have.
and it's never been their year.
But going back, you brought up Max Scherzer or whatever. I got to give a quick shout out real fast to, and he'll probably never listen to this, but
I'll send it to him. He'll listen.
This one's for Gio Gonzalez. He did me a huge favor, and we have a family member who is a huge Nats fan. He's a 10-year-old special needs child, and he's a huge Nats fan. And Gio was his favorite player.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so I asked Gio if he would send him a voice message on Christmas.
Oh,
and
super
he
cool.
did.
Oh,
He
that's
did.
awesome.
And it was, I mean, it was a good 1.5-minute voice message, you know, wishing him Merry Christmas and, you know, kind of telling him that he wants me to take him to the game so he can meet him face to face. So huge shout out to Gio Gonzalez, super good, and all those guys are.
Yeah,
Max,
all of them has been amazing.
Anthony Rendon, you know, all the baseball players, all the Nats players that we've met and trained their dogs and become friends with.
Yeah.
You know, just such
Great
humble,
guys.
down to earth, good people. So shout out to all those guys. So what else we have going on?
Yeah, man, I mean, just the trip next week. I'm still scheduled, I don't know if you forgot about this, but November 22nd, I was supposed to go to Saudi Arabia to train the dog for the prince over there, part of the Saudi Arabia's royal family. And then there was a visa issue. My visa didn't come in time. So then I had Vice President Cheney's new dog. I did that one in its place, and I started getting stacked up. So it looks like I'm going to be going over there now in maybe the mid-April or the first week in May.
And this is the Prince?
The Prince of Saudi Arabia. He's part of the royal family.
It's big time, huh?
Yeah, I'm really excited about it.
How did he hear
I've
about
never
it?
been to Saudi, so I've been to Iraq, but I've never been to Saudi. I'm sure it'll be a little bit different of an experience, though.
Any idea how he heard about it?
Yeah, crazy. So, as you know, I did Henner Gracie's dog of the famous Gracie Jiu-Jitsu family. I trained his dog 3 times now. I've done 3 private seminars, I think, at this point for Choki. I go out there, stay with Henner and his wife Eve for a week. Amazing, great people too.
Right.
And so to make a long story short, I made their dog amazing, and I think he was flying Henner over to Saudi Arabia to do like private lessons in jiu-jitsu with him.
Gotcha.
I don't know how it happened, but anyway, him and Henner were doing private jiu-jitsu lessons. Like, he's really big into it. And he told Henner, like, hey, I got this new dog. It's a standard poodle, like 5-6 month old standard poodle. He's like, yeah, I need to get him some training. And Henner's like, bro, and that's probably literally what Henner said.
Literally.
He's like, bro, I got the perfect guy for you. And Henner gave him my email and my number, and he reached out to me, and we started talking and got it arranged. So it was
That's awesome, man.
yeah, it was a pretty cool thing.
Does it get bigger than that?
Yeah, I mean, the U.S. president, I would say, is bigger than the royal family. I mean, in comparison, I mean, it depends on what term. I mean, so to someone in Saudi, the royal family's bigger, but I would say to us, the president. I mean, but I did just finish Cheney's dog.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say that would be the only one upper.
What was Obama's dog's name? Bo, right?
Yeah, a water. I can't remember what dog it is now.
Obama, hit us up.
Yeah, hit us up, Obama. And Trump doesn't have a dog, I don't believe. I've never seen Trump get a dog, so I don't think
that's sketchy.
There is a first dog.
That's sketchy.
A first dog. Is that what it's called? I don't even know.
The first dog.
We didn't call. I was in the Secret Service. We didn't call it the first dog, but I think it should be. So yeah, I got that coming up. All of those seminars lined up, and yeah, I mean that's really it for me right now. What about you?
Let's see. I don't even know what today is. On the 2nd, I pick up a dog for some service work for the board and train. This is actually turning into a story. Apparently, there's going to be news cameras following me around for some of this. I don't have the details right now of why. I do understand that, you know, it is for a kid, and money was raised by, I believe, ABC Richmond, or they were involved in it somehow. Anyhow, so that's coming up, and then right after that, I have my boy Shake and Bake's coming back. Remember Baker? When tracking the lab.
Oh yeah.
Shake and Bake's coming back. He's coming back for a 3-week detection.
Oh, that's right. I saw that.
So that'll be cool. And his brother, his new baby brother, is coming with him for some obedience training. So looking forward to that. I always enjoy doing the detection and the tracking board and trains.
Yeah,
it's
you try to cherry pick those, I've noticed.
Yeah, thank you. It's a lot of fun, as you know, and it's not as repetitive, I guess.
Yeah.
As
it's always it's very different every day.
So looking forward to that. And then I have a dog coming up, I believe, from North Carolina after that, and then I think I'm gonna take a break, man.
From what?
Just training for a little bit.
Yeah? Why is that?
Focus. Well, you're putting a lot on my plate here lately. You're traveling a lot. So no, focus more on the business. You know, we have good teams set up, you know, wherever we're at. So, you know, I trust them to kind of
take charge.
Yeah. But I say that, Nick, I'll be honest, man, as you know, I always, I've said that probably 50 times since I've known you, that I'm going to take a break from training.
I've heard it a lot.
I just...
It's never worked out.
I love it, man. You know, it's what got me into this. It's my passion. And, you know, it's nice for a few weeks to be off, and then all of a sudden it hits me, and I go, you know, something's missing. You know, something's missing. So I say I'll take some time off, but we'll see.
It's like I've even told you before when I've had a lull in my private seminars. I'm like, dude, come out and, like, let's shoot some epic videos.
Yeah.
Like, let's do something epic with dogs today.
Yeah.
Just because I get the itch.
Yeah.
I definitely can relate to that.
When you're a dog trainer, you're a dog trainer. So
it's true.
It's you know, something that we're obviously passionate about, and it's not as easy as it sounds to just say I'm not going to train any more dogs and focus on the business. You know, it's again, it's what we love.
It's like I said earlier, it's all about balance.
And that's tough.
You can't neglect the business and just train dogs, and you can't just do the business and not train dogs.
Yeah,
so.
It's totally tough, but I tell you what, man, I wouldn't trade this for the world. This is
it's a
kick-ass gig, and awesome experiences that I'm having. Meeting a lot of great people. I've met a lot of great people, to include, you know, off-leash trainers, clients.
Yeah, just all around.
You know, everybody. So, you know, it's been a ride. So anyhow, other than that, I think that's it, man.
Yeah, sweet.
I don't think I have anything else going on. So what are we discussing next week? Do we have an idea yet?
No. I'm sure something will come up, and we'll just kind of wing it from there.
If you guys have any ideas of topics, we're not going to make this so much of, you know, how do I get my dog to stop peeing in the house type thing. This is more so of just kind of
topics to discuss. Like, here are thoughts on dog training,
theories,
non-dog training.
It doesn't have to be dog training, you know.
Flat Earth theories. I mean,
I'm
sure there's someone out there that's a big fan.
Yeah.
But yeah, just anything. Feel free to email us at info@offleashcaninetraining.com. And just say, hey, I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts or opinions or theories on this. Dog training, non-dog training, breeds, I mean, treats, food, really anything.
Yeah.
So, and I'll put that email address in the comments below as well.
And we're going to try to make each episode between, we already discussed it, between an hour and a half, so not crazy long, not too short. Hopefully enough to where it's on iTunes. It'll help you guys out on your. Did you see traffic yesterday?
I did not.
Oh man! Traffic was the worst it has ever been in Northern Virginia history, and it was. I mean, there was a shooting.
I did see that. Yeah, I saw that.
Dude hops out of a car and starts shooting at cops, and anyhow, 95. Oh man, it was bad. Anyhow. So hopefully we can help you guys out on your commutes. If you have any ideas on how to make it better, how to improve our show,
Yep.
topics, blah, blah, blah. Hit us up, info@offleashk9training.com. Do you have anything else, Nick?
That's it.
All right, we will see you guys next Friday at 2.
Thanks, guys.